And a pleasant good evening to you and yours, and welcome to the Brevard Sports Network. I'm Alan Slaughterzinski, and this is BSN Sports Talk, where tonight we start to wind down the summer series here a little bit, beginning August the 1st. We will begin to kick back more into regular mode. Now, we will do a weekly show. We've actually got one coming up from Uberzati, and we're going to do that at 6 o'clock on Monday nights coming up. So I'm very excited about the summer show coming up from Uberzati. I do want to take this opportunity real quick to thank our sponsors, because we've got some great ones. And, of course, Best Private Investigations. I'd like to thank Gregory Buttrick and his staff at Best Private Investigations. I'd also like to thank Kendall Signs and Beach Wave Volleyball Club. Speaking of Beach Wave Volleyball Club, coming up this weekend, Beach Wave's got their big club tryouts. Now, you'll need to go on to BSN right on our Facebook page for all of the information. They're going to take place this weekend at the Wickham Park Community Center. But for more information, log on to beachwavevolleyball.club. There is the telephone number there on the bottom of the screen. Of course, we'd like to thank Coach and Coach Michelle Rycroft and Club Director of Beach Wave Volleyball Club. As I said, I want to thank Best Private Investigations, and there is the information there as well for them. And, of course, Uberzati and Kendall Signs. All right, so tonight my co-host is joining me. I don't even know what state he's in, to be quite honest with you. All I know is that he is somewhere, and I'm going to have him tell us where he is tonight. So help me welcome in my co-host on BSN Sports Talk, the man, the myth, the super sophomore, Jackson Robb. What's up, buddy?
What's up, Alan? Actually, I am up in Illinois right now.
All right, so you're an hour behind us. So I don't feel so bad for screwing up the Chase Cromartie interview by accidentally knocking it off the air. A lot of times we'll say we had technical difficulties, but that one belongs to me. I have no idea what I did. I thought it was an internet connection. I did something wrong. And if you know me, it's not hard to believe. So what have you been doing on your trip, Jackson? You've been to Chicago, you've been to Charlotte, you've been back to Chicago, and we're going to talk about Chicago coming up, because you and I are NASCAR fans, and NASCAR made an interesting announcement about a race coming up there next year, but that's later in the show. What have you been doing with your summer?
Hang out with my family a lot. Sports-wise, went to a Cubs game about now a week ago almost. Just hanging out with family. Then we went to Charlotte to go visit more family and go hang out with them while I'm around. So it's definitely been action-packed few weeks, and definitely fun. That's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And I do notice on your setup there, I do see the Chicago Bears helmet, and the Chicago reference is way above you. I don't know if you've even heard of the show Married with Children with Al Bundy and Kelly Bundy, but Peggy Bundy and Bud Bundy. But it was a show back in the early 90s, I believe it was, that was one of the first edgy sitcoms, if you will. Fox put it on, and Kelly Bundy was a blonde daughter to Peg and Al Bundy, and let's just say that Kelly wasn't exactly going out in the world with a high IQ. She once got a job as a weatherwoman in Chicago, where the Bundys lived, and as she was on television reading the weather, she looked at the map and said, the temperature here in Chicago today. So I always refer to Chicago as Chicago. So Wrigley Field is on. Mark Moses, big, a friend of ours, friend of the show, is a big Chicago, born and raised there, big White Sox fan, I believe, but recently took a trip to Wrigley Field, and he texted me while he was at Wrigley Field and told me that I have got to put it on my bucket list. Now, I've been to Fenway. I've been to Old Yankee Stadium. I've never been to Wrigley. Tell me about your experience at Wrigley.
Wrigley's just something else. The thing that stands up to me is just the fans. Chicago sports are always, the fans are first, but the Cubs, no matter if they're the World Series Cubs or where they are now, admittedly not that great, they sell out every game. You have the beer snakes, you have the seventh inning stretch. Just the atmosphere is incredible, and then it's still the same Wrigley Field that all of our parents, grandparents, whatever, would have gone to. The scoreboard in the outfield is incredible, the ivy wall. But it's just that atmosphere of the Cubs. The Cubs games are just always high energy. Even if they're losing 12-0 while they're 0-116, the Cubs games are still going to be enjoyable to go to, no matter when, why, or how.
Yeah, two things I heard. Let me ask you this: when you walked into Wrigley Field, and the thing that struck me when I walked into Fenway and I walked into Old Yankee Stadium, Jackson, was the smell. I could smell history. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but ballparks have old ballparks have a certain smell to them. Hot dogs, beer, and when you get in a place like Fenway or Old Yankee Stadium, and I would imagine Wrigley, there is just that aroma of all of it put together. I imagine you can feel and sense the legend of the Billy Goat, the curse of the Cubs, Bartman, all of it. I mean, tell me, were you able to have that experience? Do you know what I mean?
I do, yeah. It feels like baseball in the most literal sense. Exactly. You smell the hot dogs, you smell the peanuts, and
right.
It's just, yeah, I get it. And yeah, Wrigley definitely has that feel. It's just history. It's just baseball history there.
Yeah, no doubt. And, Dodger Stadium, Chavez Ravine, I would imagine, has the same feel, which is where the All Star Game was held on Tuesday night. And we're going to talk about, coming up on the show tonight, we're going to talk, we'll look at the All Star Game and talk about the Home Run Derby. I'm more interested in getting your take on what you thought about the uniforms that the teams wore. The game itself was a complete pitcher's duel. It was a bore, quite honest with you. But if you like pitcher's duels, this was your game. At one point, the National League didn't get a hit for 7 innings, and the American League's now won 9 in a row, and I think 21 of the last 25, I think I read. Just incredible streak. But we'll get to Major League Baseball because you and I have got some awards to hand out. Tonight, we're going to preview the AFC North. I'm excited about that, Jackson, because we get to talk about my Ravens. We're going to talk about Kyler Murray and show me the money, baby. Every time an Arizona Cardinal signs a new contract, I cannot help but think of the movie Jerry Maguire. I'm just going to ask. I think I know the answer. Have you seen Jerry Maguire?
No, I have not.
Jennifer? You got to get him called. At least you get him on. Don't worry about the Al Bundy pig. You got to see Jerry Maguire to know. Have you ever heard that expression? Show me the money. I know you've heard that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have.
Every time an Arizona Cardinal signs a new contract, I think of Rod Tidwell from Jerry Maguire screaming in his kitchen with his brother and his wife, show me the money. And Kyler Murray sure did get shown the money earlier today. And what it means for Lamar Jackson, I have no idea. But I'll tell you this, I don't necessarily think it means Lamar's destined to sign that extension as quick as everybody thinks that's coming. We'll talk about that coming up. We'll take a look at the Florida Gators as well. We'll talk about SEC Media Days and what a waste of time any media days are anymore. I don't care, from the high school level to the college level to the professional level. Media days are self-serving, and, well, we'll get to that coming up, and that's just my opinion. But as we always do here, Jackson, on BSN Sports Talk, we always begin with local news. And speaking of baseball, there is a lot of baseball, and I break the show tonight with a big announcement in case you missed it earlier today. Brevard Sports Network will be on the road tomorrow to Hudson, Florida, where for the third time since 2014, Viera Suntree Little League Junior Division will be playing for a state championship. And I went out today to their practice. I stopped by their practice, today, and I had an opportunity to talk with them just very quickly, and one of the coaches, Nick Galuzzi. I'm very excited to go. I think they have a very, very good chance to win a state championship, and should they do that, they would then advance to the United States Regional Championships, and for the junior division of Little League, that takes place in Broadway, Virginia. And again, that junior league took that trip for Suntree Viera Little League just a couple of years ago. So this is an age group that is extremely familiar with success when we get to this part of the summer. So you'll have to tune in. The first pitch of the first game is tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Thank the baseball gods it's at 8 o'clock, because when old guys like me get out in the sun, sometimes things don't turn out well. So congratulations to the Viera Suntree Little League, and you'll see them all weekend, and I'm confident you're going to see them all weekend here. And the championship game is 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. Let's harken back to last Friday, if you will, because yet more baseball news. And Jackson, I don't know if you had an opportunity to see this, but I know you know who this student athlete is. What a showing the O'Galley Commodores' Riley Jackson had in the USA Baseball All-American High School Baseball game out at Chavez Ravine. That really kicked off MLB All Star festivities. And he went 1 for 1, was hit by a pitch, scored a run, threw out a base stealer, had Harold Reynolds talking about him during the broadcast. But he certainly had a fantastic showing, Jackson. Made Brevard County proud, made the O'Galley Commodores proud, and I know he made his dad proud. In fact, Bobby Jackson put up a post, "Son, I've been a fan of the Los Angeles Dodgers my whole life, and because of you, I am here at Chavez Ravine." And I just thought that was a heart-touching post. Did you get an opportunity to see any of the highlights of the spectacular evening that Riley Jackson had, Jackson?
I saw some of them, not the whole thing, but definitely incredible plays. And congrats to Riley. And that's just incredible, going at the national stage from little O'Galley, you could say, and going out to Dodger Stadium and putting on a great performance. Great for him, and great for Brevard County for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And staying at the local level, but yet with America's pastime, congratulations to former Rockledge Raider standout Eric Adler. Adler selected by the Chicago White Sox in the 6th round of the Major League Baseball draft. And the MLB draft is 10 rounds. Adler out of Wake Forest last year didn't have the kind of year Eric Adler is accustomed to having. He had some control issues. But look, I love where he's going. If indeed he signs, and I don't know that he is. I don't know what the situation's going to be. But theoretically, you know, the MLB draft is 10 rounds, Jackson. The slotted money for pick 191, which is what Eric Adler was, I think is $261,000. It could be 216 or two. I could have it backwards, but it's either 216 or 261. But what a job by Eric Adler to get drafted. And that tells you the potential of Eric Adler, because, again, as I said, he struggled this year with control. And as a redshirt sophomore, he's yet still drafted. It'll be interesting to see if indeed he does sign. And I tell you, I couldn't be more proud of Eric.
Yeah, it's incredible. Congrats to Eric. And no matter how much he's getting paid, it's a lot. And, you know, once again, great for him and great for Brevard County. It's just great to see these guys move up through the ranks. The Rockledge Raiders going to Wake Forest, and still getting drafted to the MLB is a great honor. And I look forward to seeing what Eric can do at that top level for the White Sox.
Graduated in Rockledge in 2019. Of course, he's a product of that pitching machine that Greg Claiborne and Tom Mandillo put out year after year after year there at the Rock. Over there, his senior season, 135 batters. He struck out in 63 innings in 1.44 ERA, and all he did was bat 400 as well. So, you know, again, excuse me, and it is $261,000. And so good luck to Eric Adler. The Cocoa Tigers, who have struggled mightily on the diamond, have made an outstanding hire. And of all the baseball off-season hires that I think, and I'm talking about all the sports. I thought Diego Perez was a great hire for astronaut volleyball. There's been some really good. Melbourne's got a new girls lacrosse coach. There have been some really outstanding hires, but this is one of the best. I just think that this is a great hire. Former Space Coast Viper athletic director and varsity baseball coach Eusebio Solis, Yusi, as everybody knows him by, was named the new baseball manager for the Cocoa Tigers. And Yusi will get in there and will turn a program around that, as I said, has really, really struggled. They haven't had a winning season in 6 years. And I just think that with the UC has a plethora of baseball experience. Of course, he coaches the club team at 321 Sportscast. He takes, he's up there running dingers. He does a phenomenal. UC and baseball go hand in hand. So this is a very big deal for the Cocoa Tigers. And on the cusp of athletic director Mark Karsten's hiring Brian Huarte to be the girls basketball coach, just a few days later announces UC Solis. So it's been a very good summer for Coach Karsten. Do you have any thoughts on that, Jackson?
I just agree. It's a great hire for Cocoa, and hopefully that baseball team can grow under the lead of UC.
No doubt. And I want to say congratulations to the Space Coast Striders. I also want to say this while we're at it. Just because we put up one club team, one club track team, we want to report it all, but we need your help to do that. We really do. We can't possibly keep up with all of the information that is. Think about how many different club teams there are in this county, Jackson. Think about how many different sports there are in this county that play club sports. And so I want to personally thank the Space Coast Striders for keeping Brevard Sports Network up to date with what's going on, because they certainly are worthy of recognition. Mackay Joe, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, a name you're going to hear over the next 7 years in this county. On day 2, the 11-year-old won his second national championship in the shot put, and he did so in the discus as well. Congratulations to Mackay Joe. There's another Mackay Joe in the making, and 6-year-old Jordan Stevens, the young phenom, won the national championship in the long jump. This was at Dr. Phillips High School last week. Jumped 3.33 meters. That may not sound like a lot, but think about a 6-year-old jumping 10 feet, 11 inches. Impressive, to say the least. He is the primary national champion. Oh, by the way, he finished second in the 400 and fourth in the 200-meter run. And the 11-year-old Space Coast Striders team is headed to the AAU Junior Olympics. That's going to be taking place July 26th through August the 6th in Greensboro, North Carolina. Obviously, Mackay Joe and Jordan Stevens will be going there as well. I believe the Flight brothers, DeBar Deuce Fluellen, Jair Stevens, and Michael Pulley, combined with Mackay Joe, all headed up to the AAU Junior Olympics. So congratulations to the Space Coast Striders. And if any other club track teams in Brevard County have competitors going to the AAU Junior Olympics, the email address is brevardsportsnetwork@gmail.com. Please send us the information. We will be more than happy to get it up. We just ask that it's complete information with pictures, the name of the athlete, the age, the events they're competing in. We don't leave anything to chance, and we want to make sure we get it right. So congratulations to the Striders. And speaking, and they aren't the only ones that won a national championship. How about the young ladies, Jackson, from the Space Coast United 2007 ECNLR team under the guidance and tutelage of Viera Hawks varsity girls soccer coach Cal Dixon? They go out to Denver, Colorado, outscore their opponents 11-4, go 4-0, and win a national championship. So congratulations to the Space Coast United 2007 ECNLR girls U15 team. They defeated Virginia in a tough contest 2-1 for that championship. It is the second straight year Space Coast United has sent a team out there that has come back and won a championship. I believe last year it was Mike and Rosanna Lord's team that won out and won a national championship. So that's some great stuff there. And in our community notebook section, coming up on August the 5th, my good friend Des Chaskelson is hosting yet another free self-defense seminar. And with the way things are in today's world, you can never have enough free self-defense. The Cocoa Beach Karate and the Cocoa Beach Police Department. Des is a bad, bad man. I'm going to tell you that right now. And if you're going to learn from somebody, he's a pretty good one to do it from, a 6th degree black belt. Des asks that you are SVP. You can send him an email. The information is there at senseides@yahoo.com. Jackson, so anything you have to add from a local perspective here tonight?
I just love all the success of like the younger generation, all these clubs, the track team, the 11-year-old boys and the 15U girls. It's just the more like the youth, some degree. Actually, 15U would be in high school, but just kind of the pipeline up to those high schools that we're going to see in the coming years is going to be fun. That's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think it gets us excited to do our job, because I couldn't be more thrilled, as you said. And that's an interesting line, pipeline, because that's what it is. And again, it's like the Suntree or Viera Suntree junior team. All of these young student athletes are, I can't wait till they are playing for the Hawks or the Raiders or wherever it is they're going to go to high school. And I've been covering these young men and women because, listen, they have got a student athlete in Cammie Potts on that team who is an outstanding baseball player look, she's going to get right out there and pitch and hit, and she's just as good as any boy her age I've ever seen play. And I can't wait to see them all play. But again, I can't wait to see them coming up and through the ranks in the next couple of years. All right, my friend. So I would say the place we need to start tonight is baseball, right? Let's get baseball out of the way because everybody always wants to talk football. The All Star Game was the other night. And again, the American League won the 9th game in a row, Jackson. The 9th All Star game in a row. So I got to ask you what your thoughts were. If you watched it, what were your thoughts on the All Star Game?
I didn't watch it live, but I looked back, got some research done, and the pitcher's duel is a great assessment of it. It was a tight game. I mean, all the runs were taken early. It tended to look like it was more of a boring game where the All-Star Game is concerned. But all I can say is at least it was close.
Yeah.
A blowout. I think there was just a lot of talent in it this year. The roster was definitely star-studded, and it's cool to see them all go at it. But, yeah, definitely the pitcher starred the most in that one. There was a great double play. I think Shohei Ohtani got tagged out at first, back-to-back home runs. So there were definitely some big plays that happened, but overall, definitely a defensive and pitcher duel at the end of the day.
The NL didn't manage a hit between the first and the 8th inning. That'll set you down every time. And all of the runs came early. Goldschmidt with a solo blast, and then, of course, the MVP, Giancarlo Stanton, with a 2-run bomb, and then outfielder Byron Buxton followed with a solo shot to put the AL ahead 3-2, and that was for good. And Emmanuel Siase of the Cleveland Guardians strikes out the side to end the game, and it was just, it was the All-Star Game. I mean, what can you say? We had 80 players there. I really enjoyed the mic'd-up players. I really liked listening to Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton in the outfield talking. I enjoyed the camera on top of the umpire's head behind home plate. I really liked some of the innovations that Fox did. And I'll be honest with you, I don't miss Joe Buck. I really like the new broadcaster for Fox. His name eludes me, but I thought he did a phenomenal job. He wasn't overbearing, which is how I like my baseball. I like my baseball broadcast to me the old school way. Now, you can be as overbearing as you want when you're calling football or hockey, but for me, baseball gets a little exciting. You can raise your voice a little bit when a guy hits a ball or gets a big strikeout. But I thought he did a terrific job. And all in all, it felt like an all-star game to me. I mean, I don't know what else to say. What'd you think of those uniforms, Jackson?
I thought they were very simple, but sometimes that simplicity is really nice. Looking back at them, I definitely think both the white and the black were just very clean cut. I think it's cut off, but right here, this jersey behind me is last year's All-Star Game jersey I have for the Cubs, and it was a more unique design, but sometimes that's just more simple, like cut down version. Just that nice gold, black and white, I really thought shined well. Again, as I said, just extremely simple and to the point. I think not going over the top ended up being beneficial.
Joe Davis is the guy's name. He's the voice of the Dodgers. I could not remember his name. I thought Joe Davis did a heck of a job. Thanks, Caleb. Yep, Joe Davis, the play-by-play voice of the L.A. Dodgers. I really thought he did an outstanding job. How about the home run derby, Jackson? Did you watch that?
Also, could not catch that. Also, but I kept up with it. I kept up with it the whole time. I definitely wanted to watch it. But yeah, that one definitely crazy. The rookie, Julio Rodriguez, dropping over 80 runs in total, then losing out in the final to Juan Soto. Pete Alonso not getting the three-peat. Kyle Schwarber going out in the first round to the old man, if you will. Yeah, definitely a storyline-filled one.
Yeah, you just endeared yourself to me a little further there with the old man at 42 and Albert Pujols. No, I thought that was the story of the home run derby was Albert Pujols. I loved how all of the All-Stars crowded around him. And listen, Juan Soto turns down the Washington Nationals' $440 million offer. And now, probably by the time we get to this point in September, he's someplace else. It's going to be interesting to see what the Washington Nationals do with Juan Soto. He's an MVP candidate. 400. I will tell you this. I think the thing that concerns me the most for Juan Soto, and there you see him hoisting the 2022 T-Mobile Home Run Derby trophy. But if I don't know how Major League Baseball can continue to pay out these contracts and continue to lose the money they're losing in television revenue. Buying Major League Baseball for as long as ESPN started to purchase it, and it's in the book, and they talk about it. They have this, ESPN has this book, it's a fantastic book, where they just talk about what a losing proposition baseball is for television. But yet here these salaries are, for attendance down, television ratings down. I just don't see how they can continue to afford to pay out $400, $500. Eventually, somebody's going to crack the $650 million plateau. May even be a guy like a Juan Soto. I don't know. But it's going to be interesting to see what the Washington Nationals do with him for sure. I want to say the Baltimore Orioles. I couldn't find a story online about it, but I did hear that the Orioles signed their number one draft pick, Jackson Holliday. Orioles with an outstanding draft, I thought. Well, they got a bunch of sluggers in the draft last week. And kudos to baseball, too, by the way, for holding the draft at the same time as the MLB All Star break. I really like that. I don't know if they've done that, or this is the first year they've done that, but I really like that. The Orioles had 4 of the first 111 picks, and I thought they did well with all of them. Of course, they get Jackson Holliday, and I hear that they did sign him. I don't see anything on it, but I think the deal is somewhere between $8 and $9 million, and actually it is here. John Heyman reports number 1 overall pick Jackson Holliday is in agreement with the Orioles on a record deal for a high school baseball player, just a touch over the number 2 pick Drew Jones, $8.8 $1.1815 million deal. Holiday, shortstop from Oklahoma, and of course the son of major leaguers. So the Orioles do something the Orioles don't normally do, and that's sign their draft picks right away. So maybe this is an ever-changing time for my Baltimore Orioles. So with that said, Jackson, it is time to take a look at the MLB standings, and we're going to kind of recap the first part of the year here a little bit. So let's take a look at the standings that are coming into tonight here, because let me get all this off this. Well, actually, those are the MLB leaders. Let me pull the standings up here. I know I got them. There they are. Here come the standings. No surprises from the last time we broke this down. I will tell you this, and I'm going to stay on the Oriole theme just simply because I find this to be extremely interesting. The Orioles to win the World Series at the beginning of the year were 2,000 to 1. Now, if you put $1 on that, Jackson, and the Orioles won the World Series, you'd win $2,000, right? So Vegas learned their lesson from a couple of years ago from Leicester City in the Premier League when they didn't drop the odds, even though I think it's Leicester City continued to win and win and win and win and win and win and win. And then eventually the payouts broke the bank in Vegas. The Orioles, I think, are now 200 to 1 to win the World Series, or 500 to 1 to win the World Series, 15 to 1 to win the division now. So will they? No. Will they win the division? No. Will they make the playoffs? No. But I'm glad that they've at least scared Las Vegas. Looking at the MLB standings, Jackson, the Yankees lead the way, .681 winning percentage. They lead Major League Baseball with 64 wins. They also get beat in game one of their doubleheader, 3-2. And then, actually, they get swept by the Astros tonight. So not a great way to start the second half for the Bronx Bombers as they get beat 3-2 and 7-5 tonight. So we said, Jackson, before the All-Star break, I don't know if you were on the show with us, I felt like the power rankings going into the All-Star break, I had the Astros on top of the Yankees. I just feel like they're a better rounded baseball team. And here they come out of the All-Star break and get the sweep over the Yankees. The Astros are 61-32. They are 10 games up on the Mariners. But look, kudos to the Seattle Mariners. They have won 14 games in a row and shouldn't be overlooked. I mean, when you look at the wild card standings right now, there are some teams up there that you aren't familiar with in terms of the wild card. There's the Seattle Mariners right there, a game up over the Blue Jays, 2 up over the Red Sox, 2.5 over the Guardians, 3.5 over the Orioles, 3.5 over the White Sox. The Rays lead the wild card standings there in the American League. Over in the National League, your wild card standings are the Braves and the Padres. Then you have the Phillies, the Cardinals, the Giants, and the Marlins are 6 back. But again, the Marlins, 43 and 49, kind of took a little bit of a nosedive before the break, Jackson. They lost 4 in a row. So as I have the stat leaders up for the American League, I'm going to put the National League stat leaders up now. Who are your MVPs in the first half and your Cy Youngs for the American League and the National League?
My MVPs, honestly, first of all, in the American League, I got to stay with Aaron Judge for now. I definitely think that race is very close between a plethora of players now. Some people could lean Ohtani, Mike Trout, but I still stay with Aaron Judge just because of, his overall play, I guess, keeps him out front for me. AL MVP, I still have Paul Goldschmidt for the same reason. I think that race has gotten a lot tighter, but for the same reason, his stats as a whole just still stand out for me. For the Cy Young, in the AL, I'm going to go with Kevin Gausman from the Blue Jays. And for the National League, who did I have? I have I have my notes there. I have Pablo Lopez from the Miami Marlins. But I
Okay.
think there were multiple Marlins pitchers I had. So both of those two, though, for the Cy Young, again, just it's so all four of the awards to me are very tight races now, more than they were before. But just from an overall stat by stat perspective, I think those are the four that stand out to me.
I'm going to break with tradition here. No, I said on this show a couple of weeks ago that I would never pick Shohei Ohtani as my MVP because I feel like the MVP has to come from a winning team. But when I look at what Shohei Ohtani is doing, here's top 4 plays of the year in the first half of Major League Baseball on your screen there. When I look at what Shohei Ohtani is doing on the mound, 2.38 ERA, 87 innings pitched, 123 strikeouts. I look at what he's doing at the plate. Ohtani's going to be my guy. I think he's the most valuable guy in baseball at the moment. I just think that Ohtani provides, whether you like him or not, when you mention the name Shohei Ohtani, he sparks conversation. And I think with that being said, he doesn't spark conversation for once in a bad way when you're talking about Major League Baseball. There's a lot of negative things that have happened in Major League Baseball over the last 10 years. And I don't mean from the player's perspective. I just mean with the sport. Shohei Ohtani is a breath of fresh air. We haven't seen anything like this since the days of Babe Ruth, with a guy that can hit and a guy that can pitch. And he's now doing it 2 consecutive years. So I think to be the man, you got to beat the man. And I don't see anybody out there really just having the type of year that says Ohtani needs to come down as the reigning MVP. I think he's still there. And so I give my first half American League MVP to Shohei Ohtani. My AL Cy Young is going to go to Shane McClanahan of the Tampa Bay Rays, a 1.71 ERA, 110 2/3 innings pitched, 147 strikeouts. Verlander, Manoah, Kevin Gausman, even Ohtani in there. But for me, McClanahan, even though he got lit up in the All Star game, he's the guy. You look at the Tampa Bay Rays, people want to know, how do they continuously get it done? Well, it's because of guys like Shane McClanahan. So for me, it's McClanahan and Ohtani as my MVPs. In the National League, look, I'm always going to go with the old guy. There's no doubt about that. And for me, the old guy in the National League is Paul Goldschmidt. Look, both the Cardinals and the Padres are both getting what they paid for Arenado and Goldschmidt and Machado. They are 3 of the 6 highest paid position players in the National League, and they are 3 of my top MVP voting. It's funny because I was looking at CBS Sports today, and they said virtually the same thing. And I'm here to tell you right now, Goldschmidt, Machado, Arenado, and I tell you, for my Cy Young, I really like another Marlins pitcher in Sandy Alcantara. And if you watched Sandy Alcantara pitch the other night, man, he is a thing of beauty to watch on the mound. Alcantara is tall, he's lean, he's smooth, he's throwing 100, he's throwing 101. He's a throwback. And what I mean by that is he's a guy that can pitch into the 8th inning and throw 100 miles an hour. You don't see that in baseball anymore. Alcantara is that guy. So who did you pick from the Marlins?
I'll admit, I had to say, I found my wrong notes. It was from an earlier show. My picks were actually, revised Cy Young. AL Cy Young, mine were the same. Shane McClanahan and Sandy Alcantara. So, yeah, I had older notes, but those are my 2 picks also. Okay, yeah. All right, so Alcantara, man, he is a stud. And let me tell you, the future Yankee or Red Sox or whatever he is, he's a lot of fun to watch pitch. I just hope that when the Marlins get rid of him, because inevitably they will, I just hope it's not to the American League East. And if it is, I hope by that time
my Orioles are doing well enough to where they would actually jump in the bidding for a guy like Alcantara. He's having a magnificent year. But more importantly for me, he's a beaut to watch pitch. He really is. All right, who's your biggest surprise in baseball in the first half? What is your biggest surprise?
It's recent, but mine honestly has to be the Seattle Mariners as a whole. 14 straight wins. But the Mariners are the team I believe have the longest playoff drought in any of the major sports, if not the highest, one of the biggest. And they have been in the postseason forever. And just overall, it's kind of out of left field. No one really had the Mariners kind of on their map like, yeah, this will be their year. 14 in a row is impressive, but just as a whole, them being in this playoff conversation is news to me.
Yeah, look, you look at what they're doing right now and what's working for them. Everything is working for them right now. You go to the top of the lineup in terms of, they got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys. They hit well. They really hit they have really hit the baseball well over this 14-game winning streak. Ty France. As a team batting average, nothing jumps out at you. But I'll tell you what, and then you go and you look at what they've got pitching-wise. This is an impressive baseball team. Logan Gilbert, 10-3, 2.76 ERA, 25 years old. You got Flexen 6-8. You got Robbie Ray at 8-6, 3.54 ERA. So this, like the Orioles, is a young team putting it together, learning how to win. They're going to be exciting to watch down the stretch. And I don't think the Mariners are going away. I think my Orioles will fade. But I'm going to go with the Orioles as my biggest surprise. I really am. Look, the Orioles, you have to look at what the Orioles have done over the last couple of years. The Orioles became the first team, Jackson. I want you to think about this stat. The Orioles became the first team since 1891 to win 10 straight games following a 110-loss season. Think about that. 1891. That's how bad the Orioles are or were. You go back and look at them over the last couple of years. It's 110 losses, 110 losses. As an Oriole fan, I can tell you it's been absolutely sickening. Even when April came around this year, Jackson, I was like, well, here we go. What's that expression from the movie with Adam Sandler where he, Waterboy, oh no, we suck again. That's the mantra every year for the Orioles. Oh no, we suck again. And, guess what? We're 46-46, and I'll take it. Here coming out of the All-Star break. So, final thoughts on baseball?
It's been a wild start. It was like at first the Yankees and everyone were running away with the divisions. Now they're getting closer, farther. But as a whole, baseball is fun right now. Definitely fun to get into and just follow right now. A lot of storylines. It's not just another season. It'll definitely seems like it'll be one to remember.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, take a little break here. I want to thank some of my sponsors, and that would be Connect Sports Consulting. Connect Sports Consulting has partnered up with Next College Student Athlete. Why pay $200 for a service that Connect Sports Consulting can save you 60% on? You have a student athlete that needs to get recruited or needs that extra something. Next College Student Athlete, NCSA, provides that. Email connectsportsconsulting@gmail.com, and they will help you get taken care of for the lowest price possible. As if it's not expensive enough for students these days, if you have an opportunity to save 60% on a service as outstanding as Next College Student Athlete, you definitely want to do it. And again, Beach Wave Volleyball Club, there are the big club tryouts coming up. Right there on your screen. So I want to thank both of them. All right, Jackson. So we have taken care of the baseball aspect of that. And just to recap, our side, you didn't have Otani. You had Judge and Gaussman in the AL. and we both had Alcantara and Goldschmidt in the National League. All right, so let's jump to let's make a pit stop. Literally, let's make a pit stop here before we get to football and talk SEC Media Days and the Florida Gators. So let's take a pit stop here. One of your favorite sports, NASCAR, made a big announcement this week, and I found it to be extremely interesting. I've been watching a little bit more NASCAR, these next-gen cars. First of all, nothing feels, this is not your father or mother's NASCAR anymore. There is no Firecracker 400 in the middle of the season, which felt weird, by the way, not having that Daytona race again over the 4th of July weekend. But we're seeing more road courses in NASCAR, and they've added yet another for 2023. And this one blows my mind because I never thought I'd see the day where NASCAR would actually go Grand Prix style here. Jackson, tell us what they're going to be doing.
Well, NASCAR unveiled a new Chicago street course, ironically where I'm at right now, and definitely, I mean, NASCAR in the last year has been branching out. We saw them race the LA Coliseum, the new next-gen car, going to only one lug nut, a lot more road courses. But this is something that I saw the rumors coming up, and I was always like, they wouldn't do that, would they? They wouldn't. But they did. And did it shock me? No. And it's just, NASCAR's evolving, and it doesn't really come out and shock me as much. But it's a big move. It is a big, big move, and it's going to be interesting how it pans out because as we've seen a lot of these huge debut events, they either have booming success or flop terribly. So I guess we'll see how it plays out when next July comes.
Yeah, I'm one of these guys where it's tough for me to break tradition. Look, I mean, I like my Firecracker 400 July 4th weekend. I don't like NASCAR playoffs, or didn't like this. But you know what? I like this. Listen, I get it. NASCAR back in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, was a sport on television that was starting to catch in terms of television ratings. The NBA, they had surpassed Major League Baseball in television ratings. So then that fell off following the death of Dale Earnhardt. A lot of people lost interest in the sport. You really lost a generation of fans with the death of Dale Earnhardt. Then all of the changes that were made to the cars, a lot of people didn't like them. Changes to the schedule, a lot of people didn't like it. Track changes. But I think finally, the level of competition with the drivers, it's sad to me that I can't name you 15 drivers. I used to be able to go over all 41 in the field. I couldn't even come close to doing that anymore. And there's a look at the map. It's going to go past Buckingham Fountain and Grant Park in Chicago, two of the big icons in the Windy City. And it's going to be exciting, that's for sure. But look, I'm willing to give this a shot. And see how it turns out. I think it's going to be a smashing success for NASCAR. And if they're going to evolve, I'm happy to see they're doing it this way, Jackson, and not simply taking a race off the schedule and adding another oval track somewhere where these guys just go turn right for 3 hours. You know what I mean?
I do. I definitely think it's going to be a great hit, and I think it's an incredible move. Good keeping. It's something new. They're not going to Miami. They're not, feeding off of another series track. This is all them. They built this layout. I think it's a good move. And I just think the Cup Series is starting to reinvent itself in a way where it's not really losing, because this whole year could have been losing a lot of fans, doing a lot of crazy stuff. But in all, for me watching, the year has been very tight. There's been a lot of new winners. A lot of new, the playoff hunt is really good. And then moving into next year, you add in this wild card where you can just keep having exciting races and really bring people to watch. I know the LA Coliseum this year had plenty of viewers who had not watched NASCAR before. I can guarantee you that. The LA just reaching out, and now you're going to Chicago, which they had a track up there, Chicagoland, out here in Joliet, which is close to where I'm at now. they had. So actually, the market of Chicago was empty coming into this now coming season. So I think it's a great move. I think it'll go well, and I hope they don't go. I hope road courses don't end up taking over the sport. But for now, I like this good balance.
Yeah, I do too. And again, it's a bold step to go to Chicago, as it was a bold step to go to the LA Coliseum. So, all right, threw a little NASCAR in there on you tonight, Jackson. Jackson, do you, as a, what are you, you're 15, right? Sophomore, going to be a sophomore, sadly. Do you like media days? Do you pay attention to media days, like in the NFL media days, SEC media days, ACC? Do you pay attention to them?
Not too much. I check up on highlights or whatever's the big topic, but nothing that I'm too, I guess, adamant about following.
These media days, and let me explain. It's a big reason why we don't do them. It's why we bring guests into the studio, and we do things like have the coaches shows at at walk-ons, and I prefer more of an environment where I get to sit one-on-one with somebody. Now that doesn't always happen, and you can accomplish talking to more schools and student athletes and coaches through a media day. But to me, they always seem impersonal and self-serving to the conferences that are. I mean, at SEC Media Day, the head football coach for Vanderbilt, I think it was, I heard, talked for 30 minutes in an opening statement. Who wants to hear 30 minutes about Vanderbilt football? I mean, to me, come on. Really? Who cares? No offense to my friends that have gone to Vanderbilt, but I could care less. You tell me, give me the synopsis in 3 minutes and get off the stage. But there are some good comments that come from these media days, because inevitably, when you have 300 reporters, you're going to get stupid questions. And it seems as of late the coaches have relaxed a little bit. But the big topic, the most controversial college football topic over the summer was the big battle between Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher. Well, Nick Saban was asked about that and the NIL. Here's a 2-minute clip from that, and then we'll play you the funniest moments from SEC Media Days and then move on to the Florida Gators.
Nick, do you feel like things are resolved between you and Jimbo Fisher, and are you concerned at all with the direction of college football with the way NIL is right now?
Well, first of all, I have no issues or problems with Jimbo. He's done a great job at A&M. He did a great job for us. I
you lie!
Criticisms or whatever in a positive way to self-assess me personally in terms of maybe there is something that I could do better. And so any comments that anybody makes, you or any coach, I always take into consideration. So, but there is no issues or problems. I've spoke on this subject of
whatever, Nick.
Name, image, and likeness is a great thing for players, and I'm all for players having the opportunity to create whatever value they can create for themselves. And our players did extremely well last year. I think they made over $3 million in name, image, and likeness. And but I do think that the concerns are, there has to be some guidelines that sort of protect competitive balance, in how we do this. And the advent of collectives has created a way for third parties to make contributions to marketing organizations who can create opportunities for players, which I think is a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. Creates opportunities for players. That's a good thing. I think when it's used in recruiting and players start making choices and decisions based on promises that are made in name, image, and likeness, I'm not sure that is a good thing. So I do think there needs to be some guidelines, in that. And I think there needs to be transparency and, how all that's done. And I do think there needs to be some protection for players when it comes to people who represent them and third parties who are involved, people who get between, the money and the player, because those people have a responsibility and obligation to professionally represent the players in a first-class way. And right now we have no guidelines for any of these things, and I think that's a bit of a concern.
Two things struck me by that. That is normally Nick Saban at a podium is as confident speaking and sounding as any guy, as anyone, any great speaker, any great orator. Nick Saban is magnificent at the podium. I have never heard Nick Saban use the word, if that's even a word, as many times as he used it in that 2.5-minute clip. That tells me he's uncomfortable with the topic, and that also tells me there is nothing cleared up between he and Jimbo Fisher Jackson. It just came across weird to me. I'm going to let you get that situated, and I'm going to play the 2-minute clip of some of the funniest moments, including Nick Saban talking about how well he cleans a house.
We know that in time, Vanderbilt football will be the best program in the country.
I did sign a mustard bottle. That was the first guy to come up, which I think he had Alabama's shirt on, so I was a little confused there. So yes, I've signed a lot of mustard balls and golf balls, which normally I haven't. So
Operation Odessa, that documentary, you need to watch that, about these international criminals that try to buy a submarine for Pablo Escobar. That's worth watching. The kids got me into Stranger Things, and I'm certainly not ready for this season. I'm about halfway through.
I don't know if you noticed, it stopped raining right before you came up, so I don't know if you had control over that or not.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi, Coach. I'm Dick Cox with Indy Sports and Cox Sports Broadcasting. Coach, if somebody did not know anything at all about Nick Saban, what would be the most important thing you would want them to know?
How well I clean house. I've been cleaning house, on vacation. I get a list every day. I try to play golf in the morning. Miss Terry.
All right, so Nick Saban cleaning house. Miss Terry gives him a list every day, and he's pretty good at it. It looks like we're losing Jackson there, so I'm not sure what's going on. Having issues here tonight, and that happens on the live feed. So we'll keep our eyes out for Jackson coming up. All right, so the big story, I'll wait for Jackson to talk about Florida because I know he wants to talk about Florida football. And if he doesn't come back to talk about Florida football, then we'll save it for the next show. But the big story today in the National Football League was show me the money. And this guy right here, Kyler Murray today becomes the second highest paid quarterback in the National Football League. I'd be sitting in the end zone looking up at God too if out of the clear blue sky I was now making $46.1 million a year, a 5-year guaranteed contract by the Arizona Cardinals, paying Kyler Murray $46.1, $230.5 million. I believe $191 million of this is guaranteed. And my goodness gracious, for a guy that, let me see, we have Jackson back yet? Not yet. He's trying to get back on. Just incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible. But the incredible part is this. Look at this stat. This blows my mind. He's going to make $46.1 million a year with his new contract extension. He was drafted, if you remember, in 2018 by the Oakland A's. Kyler Murray was. The A's' entire payroll this year as a team is $48.5 million. $48.5 million. And Kyler Murray, who was drafted by the A's in 2018, making $46.1 million. Absolutely incredible. I think we got my guy back here, Mr. Jackson. Let's see if we got him here. Jackson, are you back with us, my friend?
I believe so.
All right. There you are. Well, you're vertical on me, but that's all right. I'll take you any way I can get you at the moment. The Kyler Murray contract, your thoughts on Murray and $46.1 million a year, now making him higher paid than Deshaun Watson, who shouldn't be paid $46 a year, Patrick Mahomes, and well, let's just take a look at the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. Rodgers, $50 million a year. Murray, $46. There you see Mahomes at $45 million a year. Josh Allen now becomes the 5th highest paid quarterback in the National Football League. And remember when he signed his deal, what was it, a year ago, about 18 months ago, everybody was like, my goodness gracious, and there's 9. Look at Kirk Cousins, $35 million. Goff, $33.5 million. Wentz, $32 million. Ryan, $30 million. Looking at all of this, it's incredible to me that Kyler Murray is going to make that money, and he hasn't done anything, Jackson.
No, it just seems like for me recently in the NFL and even all of major sports, money's just getting thrown around, and I remember all the wide receiver signings, Tyreek Hill's deal, like everyone's just getting paid record numbers, deal in, deal out. Every single record or every single deal is up on some record, first, second, third, all-time highest, this year's highest. Kyler, and a lot of them is just, I think, insurance. You saw that Juan Soto deal that fell or didn't go through. The thing is, I just think these teams, wherever they're getting the money, they're just saying, well, we know who's our player. If they don't want to come, we'll just pay them some ridiculously high figure numbers. But it just doesn't – it seems like the norm now. And for Kyler going up to second, he's been a good quarterback, a solid one at that, but the second best quarterback according to how much he's paid. No, look at Tom Brady. He wasn't even up on that list at all, and he's still putting up MVP record seasons. And you have Kyler Murray. So just these quarterbacks are not even quarterbacks, just players are just these star-to-star caliber players are just getting paid to stay on the team. So the teams are kind of just paying them to stay put.
Well, here's the thing. I can't, once the Arizona Cardinals extended Cliff Kingsbury, then they had to extend Kyler Murray. I mean, they just did. That's his guy. That's who he wants. Murray knew this. I think the interesting scenario comes in now for Lamar Jackson. I think to watch this situation play out to me now is just fascinating. And I mean fascinating. The Lamar Jackson situation, because Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow are still a year or two away from, their big extensions. And obviously when we get to Burrow and we get to Herbert, they'll be 1 and 2. Okay? So you got to ask yourself, what is Lamar Jackson's end game here with this? Because the Ravens have offered him. Obviously, you look at that list. Who do you take? Lamar Jackson's an MVP, right? So would you take Murray or would you take Lamar Jackson?
Oh, 100 times over, probably Lamar Jackson. Not probably, definitely Lamar Jackson. It's just that MVP. He was the standout best player in the league, one steady season, and he's been that guy for the rest of these seasons. You saw how the Ravens slid when he was injured, even with Tyler Huntley playing decently. And, again, as I said, it just seems like the teams are trying to play like security with these players just by paying them that much. But I would definitely take Lamar. Kyler's got the mobility, but his passing game's about at par with Lamar. And then his run game is – so, like, as a quarterback, as the full package, I would definitely take Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I would too at the moment until Murray proves otherwise. I certainly think that Kyler Murray has the talent to be better than Lamar Jackson. I do. Last year in 14 games for the Arizona Cardinals, I remember he missed 2 and he limped in a few. 3,787 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. So I mean, it's a good season. Not hateful. I mean, the Arizona Cardinals took a nosedive after winning their first 7. I think it was once their schedule. I mean, their schedule didn't even really get a little tougher. I mean, they lost to the Lions. They lost to the Seahawks last year. They did lose to the Rams twice. So we'll see what Lamar Jackson does here. Jackson's numbers have steadily declined, and not by a little bit either, since his MVP season. I'm not sure, like I said, I'm not exactly sure what his end game is here. But I do know this. Jackson will be the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL if he signs his deal coming up in the next month and a half. If he doesn't, then I think the Ravens and Jackson are headed to 2 one-year franchise deals. And I still think the Ravens hold all the cards here, because if Lamar Jackson hasn't won you a Super Bowl in 2 years, you got to start to think a little bit. And I know he's still young at that point, but then the Ravens have options. Jackson is probably wanting Deshaun Watson money, now Kyler Murray money, and I would think that the big difference between what Jackson is asking for and what Kyler Murray got is I would think Jackson's going to want his deal fully guaranteed. He's going to want that 5 years fully guaranteed. And if it's $240 million, he's going to want, or $245, he's going to want it guaranteed. And Deshaun Watson and Kyler Murray haven't won MVPs. Jackson has. Again, his numbers went down last year. He was injured. Still, he's got to hire an agent, because I think that's heading in a bad direction for Lamar Jackson to be sitting in those rooms and hearing about his flaws from the year he won his MVP, how he's not as good as Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers or Josh Allen, because he's not as good as Josh Allen. He's not as good as Patrick Mahomes. He can be, but he's not. And so you have to hear that. That's what your agent normally hears. You know, Lamar's TD totals have gone from 36 to 26 to 16, and his interception totals have gone from 3, 6 to 9 to 13. So, Jackson's hearing this in these negotiations. Ultimately, in the end, if he signs, I think he gets a 5-year deal. I think it's fully guaranteed, and I think he comes out as the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL. If that doesn't happen by the start of this season, then I fully expect to see Lamar Jackson playing on 2 franchise tag contracts over the next 3 years. That's just my thoughts. Any opinion on that?
Yeah, he definitely deserves to get paid that amount of money. I mean, he's an incredible quarterback, and he's playing at that caliber still. The only thing for him is he's got to keep those numbers up. The decline isn't anything to worry about. It's not like he's dropping off a cliff, but for him to get paid, which he definitely will, but he's got to keep that production level up and running at a high level, in my opinion. But again, Lamar deserves to get paid. But the way these contracts seem to be trending, there's no doubt he'll be up on that top 5, top 3 list just so the Ravens can keep him.
Well, I would disagree with you slightly about the falling off of a cliff. And I say that because in 2019 he threw for 36 touchdowns. That led the league. Last year, and he only played in 15 games then, okay, in 2019. Last year he played in 12 games, 12 out of 17, and he threw 20 less touchdowns. So I would say that's a cliff drop. He got hurt in that Miami game, and that offense really, like you said, under Tyler Huntley, it's not the same. Yes, he's dynamic. All I'm saying is that the Ravens are pointing out to him these flaws when it should be to an agent, and I think there's undue friction that's happening here. And I'm not so sure, as I said at the start of the show, that this deal gets done just because Kyler Murray has now signed. I just don't think it does. But anyway, that brings us to our AFC North preview. And Jackson, because I cut you off on several occasions tonight already in terms of losing you on the show, I am going to give you the floor, my friend. Tell me, how do you see the AFC North this year?
In first place, actually, I'll start at the bottom. I'll do that. The Browns are my fourth place team. We went back to an episode a few weeks ago where Deshaun Watson, I think, is out majority, if not the whole year. I think they struggle. I have them sitting at 5-12. They have a solid roster. They add Amari Cooper, but the quarterback is that centerpiece, that true most valuable position, your MVP of sorts, on a team these days. And their defense isn't anything special. You have Nick Chubb and Amari Cooper. So if you have a good quarterback, the Browns could definitely contend for this division, but they don't, and their options are slim. Today they signed Josh Rosen, which doesn't mean that much to me. They're shopping for Cam Newton. A lot of players that aren't going to add them immediate success. Jacoby Brissett's their starter right now. No more Baker Mayfield. Probably not Deshaun Watson. So I don't see the Browns having too much success this year. Again, 5-12, I think, is where they sit. Third place in the division at 6-11. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wow.
6-11 could be a low record, but for me, it's a year. For me personally, it was very, very hard to predict. So I did kind of go on the lower side on wins, and I might call that out as being a little low. But again, it was so hard to predict for me because of the uncertainties. We haven't seen a new quarterback in Pittsburgh in 15-plus years now with Big Ben gone, whether that's Kenny Pickett or what I believe to be the choice in Mitchell Trubisky. I think it's just so much uncertainty. You don't have Juju Smith-Schuster. Chase Claypool is your top receiver. Najee Harris in his second year has a lot of upside there, most likely. That defense will be the focal point, but it's hard to rely on a defense. T.J. Watt is a next-generational player. I do agree on that. It's hard. It's so hard to predict for me. Again, I think I might have gone low on the wins for the Steelers. There were a lot of toss-up games to me, but 6-11 is where I landed as just there's a lot of uncertainty. New quarterback, new kind of reshuffled receiver core, very young team on the offensive side, a solid team on the defensive side, but I don't think that nets them a great season. So we'll see what the Steelers can do in new Acrisure Field. Next up in second, I have your Baltimore Ravens. With a lack of receivers, they definitely are going to slide. Again, a lot of toss-up games. The Steelers and the Ravens were extremely hard to predict for me just because of how different they look. I do have the Ravens still finishing a little bit above 500 at 10-7. I think they still have a solid team. The receiving core is the biggest thing that obviously changed. The running backs will come back. I see Lamar Jackson improving a little on those numbers. I think he'll be back to solid form. Again, emphasizing on those receivers. Defense will be solid. I think the Ravens are still a good team. I don't know if they make the playoffs. It's just Lamar's got to take over this team, get those receivers in check. There's not a lot of big names, but there are younger names, so they have some guys that can have some upside. I do, again, emphasize that running back room getting back to full health. The Ravens have a chance to be really good. They have some of the biggest floor and ceiling in the league. I have them kind of towards their ceiling-ish at 10-7, but I just think they pick up. I think they capitalize on a lot of those toss-up games and head out of it pretty well. At the top of the division, that leads last year's runner-up Cincinnati Bengals. Their schedule was fairly on the easier side to me. I had them coming out at 12-5. I just think they capitalize on a lot of games. They have a pretty solid start to their season. I think Joe Burrow is going to keep developing as a player. Joe Mixon, that Jamar Chase has a lot to prove still to go after that incredible rookie year. But the Bengals and that defense getting better. The Bengals are a team that are underrated and could possibly be over at the same time. Some people are praising them to be, up there. I think they're going to be very good. I think some people underrate them. They're the Super Bowl runner-ups, and they gave the Rams a heck of a run. And I think the Bengals are going to come out and put together another electric season again. I have them at 12-5. So that's my AFC North: Browns, Steelers, Ravens, Bengals at the top. For me, the theme of this division is uncertainty, but at the top, I think the constant is the Cincinnati Bengals.
No, I agree. I like right where you are. Who did you have in last place? Pittsburgh?
The Browns. I had the
Browns. Yeah, I'm there. I'm there with you. Although I will tell you this, I am not as low on the win totals for the Steelers and the Browns this year. In fact, I do have the Browns in last place, but I could see the Browns going 7-10, 8-9. I could see this division beating each other up inside of the division. You're going to get Jacoby Brissett at quarterback for the first 6 or 8 games of the year. By the time you get Deshaun Watson back, that's what this is going to depend on. This is probably, and I know a lot of Cincinnati Bengal fans, especially my guy down there in Palm Bay, are going to disagree with me. But this might be the best roster on paper in the division. Last year, you look at the team stats, they were 4th in the NFL in rushing, 27th in passing. So that's why you bring in a guy like a Deshaun Watson who hasn't played in 18 months. I don't know. We'll see. Defensively, they were 5th in the NFL defensively. You look at that defense and you look up front at what they got. Myles Garrett, Chase Winovich, Taven Bryan, Jordan Elliott up front. I like their front four. I love their linebacking core. And Kamara, Walker, and Ward. They got a good, solid, quick secondary. Newsome, Emerson, Johnson, Dipett. I like this Cleveland Browns team. But they don't have a quarterback for the first 8 games. And in a division, or 6 to 8 games, and in a division like the AFC North, Kevin Stefanski, who, is coming back, which I think is the biggest storyline for the Cleveland Browns, that they're actually bringing back a head coach. Look, we'll see. Offensive coordinator Alex Van Pite's going to have to earn his money this year. He's going to have to really be creative with Jacoby Brissett back there. When you look at that offense, nothing really jumps out at you other than Nick Chubb. I like David Njoku, the wide receiver position, Amari Cooper, okay. We'll see. But I still think that without a quarterback, they are a 7 or 8 win team until Watson gets back. And even then, it's going to take Watson time to become acclimated. Next, I've got the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I could certainly see the Steelers going 9-8 or 10-7 and being 3rd in this division. The quarterback, again, in the NFL, it all comes down to, do you have a quarterback? And if you do, well, you got a chance to make the playoffs every year. If you don't, you don't. And that just depends on what is Mitchell Trubisky going to be. When you look at the defense, you got to love Tuitt, Alalu, Hayward, and Highsmith, right? Bush, Jack, Watt. This is the best defense, I'll say it, in the AFC North. And the Ravens may have the best secondary, but overall, on paper, I think the Steelers have the best defense. Now, offensively, right? Chase Claypool, they're going to have a rookie at wide receiver in George Pickens. I like that pick. Another rookie that's going to get some time this year is Calvin Austin. Deontay Johnson. I'm not crazy about the wide receiving core. Up front on the offensive line, that's always another big issue for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Will they be able to protect Mitchell Trubisky? And if Trubisky gets hurt, they got to go to a rookie in Kenny Pickett. So that offensive line this year in Kevin Dotson, Mason Cole, James Daniels, Okafor, and the tight end Pat Freiermuth, we'll see if they can get it done. My Baltimore Ravens, well, I like them in second place too. No team in the NFL last year lost more players to injury than the Baltimore Ravens did. I think they pull that together. They get all 3 of their running backs back this year. Again, this is with the assumption of health. You get J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. The Ravens are one of those few teams that still like to employ that fullback, H-back, Ricard, Nick Boyle at the tight end, see some time back there. This is a team that is going to run the football down your throat. They're not going to change it. Ravens fans were not happy at the fact that they brought offensive coordinator Greg Roman back, but fired Wink Martindale. If they thought anybody should have got the benefit of the doubt last year, they thought it should have been Wink Martindale. They go out and they hire Mike McDonald, the former Michigan defensive coordinator, I believe. They bring him in. Again, you look at the Ravens last year, 25th last season in defense, their lowest ranking since 1997. They gave up a league-high 16 plays of 40 yards or more. One reason and one reason only for that: Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton. Kyle Hamilton's a rookie. He wasn't there last year. But you look at that secondary, all of the starters were out, and Marlon Humphrey couldn't stay healthy. So I'm excited to see what Kyle Hamilton, the rookie, does this year with Marcus Williams, the big the big free agent acquisition, Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters. That's the best secondary, maybe Jackson, in the NFL. Up front, I don't know. I'm not thrilled with the Ravens linebacking core of Tyus Bowser, Patrick Queen, or Josh Bynes. To me, this is the weakest linebacking core in this franchise's history. And again, offensively, Devin Duvernay, Rashad Bateman, not household names at the wide receiver position. The Ravens but they do have one of the best tight ends in football in Mark Andrews. If Jackson stays healthy and he can get out of his own head, I do like the Baltimore Ravens to finish second. I thought the Cincinnati Bengals last year were a year ahead of themselves, and the fact that they went all the way to the Super Bowl I thought was great. There's not anything I don't like about the Cincinnati Bengals. Nothing at all. From their young coach in Zach Taylor, I love their offensive coordinator, Brian Callahan. I thought last year, the only reason they lost the Super Bowl last year was I thought they made some, and I'll say it, I thought Zach Taylor lost that Super Bowl. I thought there were some questionable coaching decisions he made in that game that had he taken another route, I think things may have turned out a little bit differently for the Cincinnati Bengals. You look at, they had an issue with their offensive line last year. They go out and add a guy like Alex Kappa, Lele Collins. They go get Hayden Hurst from Atlanta at the tight end. They had Ted Kakaris at center from New England. So they addressed the real one weakness that they had last year on that offensive line. Now Joe Burrows is protected. You look what he did protected last year. I think when I go down the Cincinnati Bengals schedule this year, realistically, based off of what they did last year, it's hard for me to find 5 teams that I think are better on Cincinnati's schedule. I like Cincinnati. I know it's rare when a Super Bowl runner-up has a great season the next season, but the Bengals are 13-4, the Ravens are 10-7, and the Steelers are probably 9-8, and the Browns 8-9 or 7-10. That's how I see the AFC North. I will give you the final word on it, though, on the AFC North.
Yeah, looking back, the thing for me, the Steelers and Browns, why had their win total so low? When I look at a team's schedule, and this is just my ability to predict and kind of go through as a broadcaster, I really, really, really favor a team that has a set quarterback, and that's why it's hard for me to predict those two teams just because I don't know what they're capable of with these two quarterbacks. I can look at the Ravens and the Bengals, even the Ravens without a receiving core besides Mark Andrews. I know they have Lamar Jackson. I know what he can do. I know what Joe Burrow can do. And the Bengals, honestly, that one extra loss I added is just kind of every year. Those really good teams I have going 13-4. I had them going 13-4 for a minute, and I just thought in the end that I just kind of added another loss because there were a few games I thought that could end up happening. I think in the seasons, those good teams end up dropping a one-off game. But overall, that's where I definitely agree it stands, those 4 teams. And honestly, for the Browns and the Steelers, it's about getting those quarterbacks, figuring it out. For the Browns, getting Watson back possibly and seeing how it all shakes out.
Yep, I couldn't agree with you more. If you got a quarterback in the NFL these days, you're solid as gold. If you don't, well, I shouldn't say that. If you have a quarterback in the NFL these days, you have a chance. If you don't have a quarterback, you're done. It's just that simple. Unless you're the Detroit Lions, who had a good quarterback for years and still couldn't win. All right, so we're going to save the Florida Gators for another day. Just because it's 11 o'clock here on the East Coast. I know it's 10 o'clock where you are. But I do want to go back to the clip that we lost in the middle there. I'm going to replay the funny clip from the media days. Because I just want to, unless I took it out. I may have taken it out. I took it out. Never mind. Final thoughts here tonight, Jackson.
Yeah, a lot we went over. A lot of good, football season's looming. A lot of good coming out of Brevard County. A lot of great sports stories in the club field. MLB is getting hot out of the All Star break. That's when I definitely start to get interested more. And overall, it's not too cold for sports right now. There's definitely still a lot buzzing around.
Trade deadline coming up. That's the next big story. What will Lamar do? Can the Mariners and the Orioles keep it up? Who knows? Stay tuned in the world of sports. Who says there's nothing to talk about when we get to the final week of July? And again, keep it right here on Brevard Sports Network all weekend as we will follow Viera Suntree Little League down and over to Hudson, Florida, as they look to become the third junior All-Star Viera Suntree Little League team to win a state championship since 2014. They would then advance to Broadway, Virginia in the regionals. And then from there, I believe it's the Little League World Series. And I believe that is played at the junior division. I think it's in Michigan. I could be wrong, but I think it's in Michigan. Jackson, final thoughts on all of it tonight? You there, bud?
Yeah.
Final thoughts on everything.
Thoughts.
Yeah.
As I said before, sports is still buzzing. I can't wait. Trade deadline stuff, MLB, football season's coming back. Sports is that short period of slight nothingness is starting to come back. Baseball's heating up, football's coming back. School's almost back.
That's what I want. That's what we need, bud. We need school to start.
High school sports are coming back, and it's almost go time for us, full swing once again.
Yeah, no doubt. The final coaches show is coming up from Walk-Ons in Viera on Wednesday night. I know I'll leave somebody out, but we did 8 coaches on this past Wednesday, 5 coaches before. So that leaves us with 5 more to go. We'll have, of course, Shane Staples. We'll have Ben Waldrop, Coach Terrence from Calvary Chapel. And I can't remember. But we've got, I think, 5 head coaches to finish off the coaches show. So, Jackson, thank you so much, man. Enjoy. When do you come back?
Next Friday, the 29th.
Just in time for the August 1st start of fall sports. Excited. Can't wait for you to get back. Thanks to all of you. Thanks for hanging in there with us tonight, too. Sometimes technical difficulties can be a pain, and you stuck with us through it, and we appreciate that. And again, thanks to all of our great sponsors. Beachway Volleyball Club, Best Private Investigations, Uberzati, Kendall Signs, you name it. Connect Sports Consulting, again, 60% off of next college student athlete. And if you're an athlete looking to get recruited, you know what a tremendous savings that is. And of course, if you have a volleyball player in your family, coming up this weekend are the 2023 Big Club tryouts for Beachway Volleyball Club at the Wickham Park Community Center. Don't miss out on that. So I want to thank Caleb Brown. I want to thank Jackson Robb. I want to thank all of you out there. So for Caleb, for Jackson, I'm Alan. Have a great night, everybody. And you know the saying, make it a sports night.